Hello everybody, how's it going? Welcome to Module 104 of the Information Lab and Data School's Tableau Data Skills Training course. My name is Beau Folletti and I'm thrilled to have you here. We're going to learn so much together. In this module, what you're going to be learning is you're going to be learning how to clean real-world data ready to use for analysis. We're going to be looking at importing and joining multiple data sources together, all within Tableau. And then we'll also have a brief introduction about what real-world data is. You can watch this module as a standalone training or as part of our Tableau Data Skills series. And obviously, if you do find this training useful and would like us to help you and your team make sense of your business data, please reach out at info@theinformationlab.co.uk. Check the description for links to this module's training materials, also for other useful links that'll help you level up your data skills. And remember to click subscribe to be the first to know about our new videos. Okay, let's jump right in and get started. We will start by opening Tableau. Okay, so using real-world data is important for any analyst. We won't just be using clean, well-formatted data. So this small course on real-world data is also about cleaning data in Tableau, as well as joining tables together. So really, what is real-world data? Real-world data, or what some people might call empirical data, refers to information acquired by observation or experimentation. Basically, it's data that's accurate enough to be analysed as part of the scientific method. Obviously, you've got challenges around that. They can come in terms of quality, validity, also privacy as well. So how are you getting hold of this data? And usually the best way to kind of get hold of this data is usually by data providers. Some examples of those might be like health data or like government data, obviously scientific data, which we've already breezed along as well. Some of these common ways that data is found online, it's usually formatted for human reading. So what we need to do is format it in a way or clean it so we can use it in something like Tableau. So I'll show you a few examples. Let's have a look at some of the data we're going to be using. So this is the starting workbook, which you can open. We've already connected to a data source here called income estimates. So what we'll do is we'll have a quick look at this income estimates, and we will see what type of structure we're looking at. So when you download some of this real-world data, you should get a metadata tab, which just takes you through where the data has come from. It also comes with some notes, obviously tells you what the data is. But what we're going to be interested in with this one here is this boroughs tab. So we'll click into this. And we'll have a look at how this is starting to be structured. So what we've got is we've got a code on the left-hand side. This relates to each borough. And then we've got a list of boroughs here. We've got a change in granularity, if you want. So we've got these London boroughs here. We've also got an inner and outer London option, which is kind of these aggregated. So if we're looking at a total mean for inner London, it will have some of these included. We've also got some statistics from elsewhere outside of London. So we've got Yorkshire here, Wales and Scotland, and then we've got the UK as a whole. And we've also got these null rows here. This is, again, so just an example of how we can make things a bit more human readable. So we can give us that row of nothing there, so we can actually tell that these are separate type of aggregations here. But we also have two separate tables here, which are just kind of separated here by, again, like another null row. One of them is total mean household income, and one is total median annual household income. We have both of these tables, they have years from 2001 to 2012. And one thing to note is that the years are actually along the top here. Again, this is an example of how something is human readable. So we can tell what this table is trying to tell us as humans, because, you know, if we want to look at Lewisham in 2003, we would know to come here. And we can kind of have a look at all these different numbers, where Tableau will see these as individual fields. And I'll explain a little bit more about that now. So if we go back onto Tableau, after having a look at that little bit of data, we can see here that we have our boroughs tab. If we click on this View Data button just to see what we're dealing with, this is how Tableau will bring it in. One thing to note is that our field names have just got these numbers, so F11, there's F2 here, apart from this, these couple here, which are actually our headers. So total mean annual household income estimate, total median annual household income estimate. So what it's done is it's taken these field names as as the title or our top row. So we're going to have to do something about that. Tableau has a data interpreter. So what this does is it tries to compensate for things which make the tables human readable. So for example, those null rows will shift some of the field names up into the field name section. I'll just show you what that does, better than me explaining it. So if I click this while selecting boroughs, and then I bring this onto our tables, so you just want to click and drag that and drop that. Now we can see that we've got some proper field names here. And this is just a great way as well that we can just start to check things through. We have a code here. This is a string, which is correct because we've got letters and numbers in there as well. We've got all of our boroughs here. If we scroll down, we should start to get these inner and outer Londons, the Yorkshire, Wales, Scotland, and the UK. And then we've got a different field for every single year that we have. So if I actually make this a little bit bigger, we can actually see that we've got our date at the end of this. So let me show you an example which will kind of demonstrate why we need these individual year fields into one particular date field, so we can start to make some charts which show changes over time. So let me go down to sheet 1 here, and I'll click into this. And now if I just make this a little bit bigger so we can actually see those dates, you can see that each one of these separate fields has come up on our left-hand side. So for example, if we wanted to look at our boroughs, we can drop that on rows, and then we can start to look at some of these individual years only. So if we look at 2002, and we'll just use the total mean for this one. So we can get some numbers here. But if we want to then look at how that changed in 2003, we drop that on here as well. These are their own individual measures. We can't actually get anything to relate these two together because they are separate fields. If I try to make these lines, for example, they'll just how we have changed from between the boroughs as opposed to how we change from each individual year. So what we need to do with this is we need to do something called pivoting the data. So if we go back to our data source pane, right at the bottom left, we can actually do this straight in this data source pane in Tableau. So what we want to do is we want to select all of the columns that we want to pivot. So in this case, it's all of our values. So if you select one of these, you can scroll all the way to the right-hand side and then hold Shift and click on this one. That should select all of the columns that we need. Then you'll get this little arrow in the top right corner. And if you click on this, you'll get the option to pivot here. So if you click this, what it will do is it will take all of those columns and give them an individual row. So now we should have a separate row for each borough. So you can see here we've got all of these City of Londons here. If I actually make this bigger, we've got our means, and then we have our medians sat underneath. And then when we've got through all of our medians, then we're in our next borough. So you can tell that we'll have a lot more rows than what we originally had. But in terms of columns, we just have this one here. We'll rename this and we'll make this just value for now. And then what we want to do is we want to make this column, or we want to make a particular column which tells us the date. So we can actually get that from within this string here. So this at the moment, this total mean annual household income estimate 2001 to 2 is just a string. So if we take out that 2001 section of the string, then we should be able to just make that its own separate date field or date column. What we'll do is while we're selected on this column, so just highlight it. Again, we want to go into our top right arrow here. And here we've got a few different options. So we can create a calculated field, we can split, or we can do a custom split. Now, what a calculated field does is it just gives us the ability to create a calculation and perform it on this one particular field. A split is going to basically generate us a calculated field, which is actually going to split our column for us. So Tableau will actually do a lot of the hard work for us there. And then because it's Tableau doing the hard work, if we just wanted to split on something more specific, then we can look at a custom split. I'll show you what happens if we just let Tableau do what it wants to do and click split. So we'll click onto this. And now you can see that it has split our original field and it has generated us some separate rows. So this is our year, what we were after, and this is the year in which it ends. So we don't need this one. We don't really need that now, so we can click on the right arrow again and hit delete for this one. We've also been given this mean. Not entirely sure why it's given us that, but we can delete that as well because we don't need this. And we can rename this field here so we can recognize what it is. We'll call that financial year start. And then the other thing we need to do, so at the minute this is still thinking this is a string. So what we can do is we can click into this and we can change this into a date, which is what we are wanting. So if we click this, we can actually see that it's found our year and it's created a date at the start of the year for each individual row. There's these other null rows here. So if you remember when we were looking at the data in Excel, we had those null rows. So this is where those have come from. And we can actually have a look and see how this field has created this here. So if we click in this top right box, we can click on the edit and we can actually see what the calculated field or the split, what we did earlier, how it's actually come out with this answer. So we had the split at the start, which is this part here. So when we click split, Tableau created this calculation for us. And basically it takes our pivot field names column, which is here, and it pulls out everything which is the same in all of the columns. So this total annual household income estimate. The reason why we had the mean column is because if we go further down here, this changes into a median. So that was going to be another split, another indicator for us. And then what it's done is it's parsed the date out of there. So it's got the year and then it's changed it into a date for us. So this has created this column here. Okay, so let's see what we can do with that now. We've messed about with it in the data source pane and we'll see what we can do with that on a sheet. So if we go back down to sheet 1 here, then we'll click into this and we've got our boroughs here. We'll take that out. And what we'll have a look at is we'll have a look at our years. So we'll have that running along the bottom. And then what we'll do is we'll look at this value of household income. So if we drop down rows, we can now see we've got this here. What we're looking at the minute is the sum value. So the sum of all of those incomes. We can actually change that and we can make that into an average. So, and remember, this is also taking into account the inner and outer London. It's taken in the UK as a whole. So again, not ideal. If we wanted to look at a separate borough, we could actually put this onto our filters. And now, for example, we'll keep this centric. We'll look at the whole UK. So this is how the average income or the median income throughout the UK has changed over the years 2001 to 2012. So I've had this steady incline, about 10,000. So that's a bit easier now. We can look at things over time. We can also look at things in individual boroughs. Now what we're going to do is we are going to connect to some more data so we can actually have a look at how the incomes may affect happiness or crime rate. So again, examples of when you might do this. Obviously, you may have different data sources through like we're doing here. You want to look at things together. So we'll have a look at our next bit of data. We'll have a look at the crime rates. And we'll have a look at the structure again. So if we go onto our left-hand side, like we started with last time, again, we've got this code and we've got this borough. So these, again, will relate to the borough. And then we've got this table here for all recorded offences, and we've got these years again running along the top. So that should kind of give us a clue after what we've just done into how we can fix that. These do go from 1999 all the way to 2016, so we do have a bit of a data set that goes over a longer period. And I do believe, even though we've got this inner and outer London, we are missing a few places here. For example, we're looking at England and Wales when we're looking at the UK as a whole before. We don't have a Scotland, we don't have a Yorkshire. If we go along the right hand side, these years repeat, and then we have actual individual offences. We're only going to look at the all recorded offences though. We're not going to look at one particular offence. And while we're here, we'll have a look at this metadata tab as well. Just have a quick scan of it. So see everything's all above board. We can see that we're getting this information straight from the police themselves. So what we'll do is we'll connect to that data source again. Now, if you're trying to run through this, this is going to be quite a similar process to the last bit of cleaning. We'll go back onto this data source pane here. So I will put a cleaned version of this data in there in the data file if you just want to straight away connect to that. But there are a few issues here in terms of trying to clean two data sets at once. So what will happen is if I try and bring this data in, it won't let me pivot the new table because it only lets you pivot one table at once. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to save the data that we have here into a separate file, and then we're going to basically have to do the same process again with our second bit of data. There's an easy way to do this. So you want to go back into your sheet down here, and then in your data pane, so right on the left hand side, right next to your search bar, you've got this little filter by, and then you've got this view data button again. If you click that, then on the right hand side of this little pop-up window, you've got this option to download. Now what this will do is it'll download it as a CSV file, and then we can use that again. So we'll look at this income estimates boroughs, put it in our cleaned folder. And then what we'll do is we will get rid of this, we'll remove it, and then we'll add our new data source. So our first one is an Excel file. So this is our crime rates. And here we've got our separate tabs again. So our metadata tab and this crime rates tab we were looking at. Let's bring that crime rates on to our table. So we'll have a look. And again, like we had last time, we've got these years along the top, but they're not in our field names. What we're going to do is we're going to use this data interpreter again. If we have a look at our code, it's put this as a number and then made it into a 0. That's not the case. Again, it's a string, so we can change that straight back to a string. Then that should give us our code back. And then what we want to do is, again, we want to pivot this data. This is a much wider data set than the last one. So you'll definitely want to use this little pull bar here, but select the first one and we'll get all the way to the right hand side. Then we will select these crime rates here. Little arrow in the top right and pivot. This calculation for financial year, if we just edit that to see what's happening, that is still trying to find this pivot field names column, which we don't have, or that we do now. But it's not finding these things here. So this is calculation. It's a valid calculation, but it's not working. So that's why it's giving us null values. That's okay for now. We can forget about that. We have our value field here. And now if we scroll down for each borough, we should have our all recorded offences for all years. And then straight underneath, we've got our separate crimes. So we've got burglary here and then continuing. Like we said, we only want to look at the all recorded offences. So we're going to use this data source filter again. Remember, it's in the top right. Click on this add button and then add again. Find our pivot field names field, click OK. And then the wildcard option. We want to match all values that say all recorded. Click OK. That's 18 out of all those. Sounds about right. Click OK. And now we've got all our recorded offences. And then When those finish, we get on to the next borough. We're going to want that financial year start again, so let's split this. Again, this little top arrow on our pivot field names column, click split, see what we get. And again, we've got this year column, which is where the financial year starts. So again, I'll change that to financial year start. Can't do it because it already exists. We'll get rid of this one here because we don't need it. And then remember to change this year into a date instead of a string. So top left, change it into a date. Just be careful here, check that this is actually the right date. I've had this come up as various things here. If again, just to remind you, if you go into the edit section, you can actually see what the calculation is doing. You can also make a few changes to it here as well. So for example, if it wasn't giving you the right date format, this might be a problem here. You might want to change that into what it says here. But that's all good. We'll click OK. And then we should be left with a data set, which is, well, the same kind of structure as what we were dealing with our last data set. So what we want to do now is we want to join these two tables together. And that means we can look at all of the information in one place. There are also things called relationships as well. They're quite similar to joins, but that is kind of, I think you'll be going into that a little bit more in your next lecture, which is talking about the data model. So I'll not touch too much on that. What I will do is I'll try and explain joins to you very quickly in case you don't know. And if you want a little bit of visualization, there is a tab here at the bottom for visualizing joins. So you get a few different options when you try and join things. You can do what we call a inner join, a left join, or a right join. You can also do some different ones as well, but we'll keep to these three for now. So what we have here is we have a table on the left. This is our left table, and this is our right table. So in our example that we're trying to do with our crime data and our income data, our crime data would be on our left, and on our right would be our income data. In this example, these are first names and last names, and then we have these IDs in each of the tables. So what a join will do is it will try and you'll basically give it a column. So you'll give it an ID. In this case, we're giving it an ID. But any column that matches in the two tables, you'll want to give it as what we're calling here a linking field. So as ID is common in both of these tables, we'll select ID. And then this is where the different types of joins come in. So in our inner join, so we'll go for this center one first. Kind of like the Venn diagram is explaining, anything that is common in the left table and is common to whatever's in the right table will be what we are left with. So in this case, we've got 12, which comes up in both tables. So we'll bring in the first name with that. So that's John. And then the 12 in the last, in the right hand table is Deere. So we've got John Deere. And then same again, if we look down, we've got 36 in each of the tables. So we've got first name Jane and last name Doe. You'll receive both IDs, so you'll get your ID and your right ID. So a lot of the time you'll probably want to get rid of one of these ones. But that is what we would call an inner join. Now, if we wanted to do a left join, what we would basically get is we get all of our left table, so regardless of what matches, and then whatever matches from the right hand table. So as you can see here, we've got the whole left table in there, so we're not losing any data from the left hand side table. And then we have the matching right hand table last names, so we still get John Deere and Jane Doe, but where we don't have a last name for Tim, instead of losing it off our table, we just have the left-hand side of the table. So if anything, these null rows here, that's what we're kind of generating. The right-hand join is essentially the kind of the other side of the left join. So instead of losing anything from our right table, we're now losing what in our left table. So everything in our right hand table and whatever matches to the left. So all of our last names and then whatever first names match to those. So again, we've got John Deere and Jane Doe. A few other types of joins as well. So you can have these unmatched joins. So basically anything in the left hand table that doesn't match with anything in the right. And then we've got the same again with the right hand table. We have the full outer join. So this is basically both of the tables smashed together, so you won't lose any of the data. So you'll probably get this extra line here with the last name that doesn't match, but then you'll also get another row here with the first name that doesn't match as well. And then you can do an unmatched join. So basically everything that doesn't match. There are use cases for all of them, and we'll have a look now at how we can actually do those in our data source pane. So if we go back into our data source pane here, what we want to do is we want to drag our income estimates, so our boroughs here, and we want to put it into this. But what we need to do is we need to get the file that we looked at there, that we cleaned before. So this income estimates here, this is actually the data when we brought it straight in right at the beginning. So we'll need to click on this add here again. Be careful not to click on the Excel file because when we saved it, it was a CSV. So you can actually go on text file here and then find our income estimates cleaned. And now we've got this in here. This income estimate's cleaned here. I'll just click on the view data just to make sure it's the right one, which it is. We've got our financial year start and we've got this pivoted here. So we need to click and drag this in here. If you click and drag this straight away and this line comes up, this is creating a relationship. That's not what we want to do today. So just be careful of that. What you actually want to do is click on the arrow here and there's an option to open this. So if you click open, then we are looking at this join. So at the minute, we've got this crime rates table. It's made of one table. And now we want to bring in this income estimates. So click this and drag it and drop it into the box. This little symbol will pop up. So this is what we've just been looking at. This is going to join it's going to bring us back everything which is in both of the tables, which is what we want to look at the minute. We need to join on something. So if we click into this, Tableau basically decide what it thinks you want to join on. So at the moment, it's looking at borough. That's okay, but what we want really, and it's good practice, is to use a code. So now we've got these codes in here. If we scroll along, we can see this orange is our first table, so our crime rates, and then this green here is our income estimates as well. All of the boroughs which come up in both tables. Now, another thing that we had is these financial years. So I remember that our crime rates went from 1999, whereas our incomes didn't start from that. Also, if we scroll along, we are not getting the same matches. So, for example, we can see this year here. In fact, we'll look at the other side. So we've got this financial year start here, 1999, and then we've got this one matching up to this 2012 one. Because the only thing that it's matching on is it's trying to match the same code to the same code. So as long as it's barking and dagging them, it will connect them together. So what we need to do is we need another linking field so it knows exactly which row belongs to which row. So if we go onto here, we can add a new join clause. And this time what we want to do is we want to join it to our year field. The only issue there is that you can't join on a calculated field. Annoyingly, you have to create the calculation again. So if we click on this, we are given this calculation box here. And then what we need to do is essentially put the same calculation that is being generated by the calculated field. So what we can do is we can literally click X on this. If we scroll along here so we can find how the calculation works. So if we go all the way onto here, so that it was our financial year star, if we click on that and we can click edit so we can get to the calculation. Now what we want to do is we want to copy all of this and put it in our new join clause. So as complicated as it is, we'll copy the whole thing. So Control C, get out of there, then add a new join clause. So create join calculation here, and then we'll just paste that in there. Calculation is valid, click OK. And now we should just be able to get our financial year from here. So this FY start 1, and that's because obviously we saved that extra column in the CSV file, so it doesn't have to do a calculation to call on the values again. So we'll click that and those should match, and we'll just do a little check here. Now we're getting this financial year star and this financial year start 1 matching up together. Okay, so these are the two tables joined together. While we're here, I'll give you a little bit of a demonstration of what these different joins are. So if I create another sheet down here, and what I'll do is I'll show you through the boroughs first. So if we have a look at boroughs, and this time we want to have a look at our income estimate value, and then we'll look at it with our value here. Okay, so income estimate value and the value for our crimes. So if we actually have a look at this, we can see that we've got one row of, we've got data in every single row here. That's because the table that it's using is only looking at things where they appear in both sides, so the inner join. If we go back to our data source pane now, and then we can change this here. So maybe when we want to look at all of the boroughs and all of the dates that are in the crime rates table, we just want to look at the things from the income table that matches. So if we click on this left inner join, and then we go, we can already see that a few more tables, a few more rows have popped up here. But if we go back into this sheet 2 now, you can see this England and Wales where we had a value for crime and we didn't have an income value. We've still got that row of data on here. Now let me show you the other way around. So if we go back onto the data source pane and click this, and then we click right, we click sheet 2 again. Seems we've got all the data here for all of that. And then if I show you what happens if we do a full outer join, so this is basically all of the information that we've got. We've just joined the tables together. Now you can see we've got this plus these null values here. But we'll make that back into a inner join. And now what we're going to do is we're going to join our last bit of data, which is our happiness. So again, to do that, we're going to have to go back into here. This data is cleaned, so we're not going to need to save anything. We'll click this add button. And it is the Excel file, so click into this. And then this time it's going to be these well-being estimates. So again, we've got a metadata tab, we've got a data set. Let's have a look at it quickly. In fact, it might be even better to do this on Excel, so we'll go on to the Excel file. We've got this geography here with all of our different boroughs on again. We have this geography field, which looks like our code. And then we've got this anxiety, happiness, life satisfaction. We've got an estimate here, which is showing us the mean, which I assume this is the mean. And then we've got these 3 columns here, which are just showing us a little bit more of the average stuff in there. We're only going to be really focusing on this one here. We just want that straight average. So we'll get in there and bring the table in. Let's go back into Tableau. Don't need this now. And we'll drag this data set straight to join with these ones here. So when you get this, you'll get this little warning here, just telling us that we can't join to the crime rates. It can't think of anything to join it to. We're not actually wanting to join it to crime rates. We want to join it to our income estimates. So if we select the code from the income estimates here, and then we select our geography code there, you can see that now the join between the crime rates and the income estimates is one, and then this is a separate one here. We've still got this warning though, which we shouldn't have. Um, and if we looked at our data set, it did seem that we did have the right codes. So again, this might be some sort of data type error. So remember in our income estimates, it did think our codes were numbers. So if we actually look on this left-hand side here, there's a little bit of a table at the bottom. It's quite small, but you can actually scroll through and look at the data types of all the individual fields. So our code for our crime rates is a string. Our code for our income estimates is a string. And then if we go here, our geography code in our well-being data set is a number here. So again, like in the right-hand side, if we click this, we can change this to a string. Now you can see that warning has disappeared, and now we've got our table back, and we can see what's being added on to the end. So what we've got here is we've got a little bit of data for each one of these options here. We are only going to look at one particular one, so we're going to look at happiness because I like the sound of that one over the other two. So what we're going to do is we are going to again do a little bit of a filter. In fact, we'll leave the filter for the dashboard so we can see what's happening there. So again, we don't need to join it on anything else apart from the code. We don't have anything else for it to join on. We can get rid of these fields that we didn't need, so we can hide that one. You can only hide them when they're straight from the table. But after that, we should have a look and say that this data set is joined together. We've got these three tables together. Now we can do analysis on the three of them. Let's have a look at what we mean. So if we go back into our sheet 2, so we've got our income estimate value here. So that is our household income. We've got this value here for crime rate. So already we can start to do a bit of analysis. We can see the places with the highest crime rate, so like Westminster, are they the places that have the most income? Well, it's not really. If we have a look at the income, does income affect the crime rate? Again, we can't really say that it particularly does. Maybe there's not even really a higher average amount of crime rate. If anything, if I draw a quick average there, seems a bit less than the one that up here. So maybe we can have a look at stuff like that. But you can see how we can now start to pull analysis from two different tables and start to work on them together. Let's add our happiness value in. So we only have this 2012 and 13 information here. So I'll drop that there. Again, this is, like we said, is all the values in that column, which were our happiness and our anxiety and all that stuff as well. So what we can do is we can filter this on the dashboard. So if we are having a look at our measure of well-being, we'll drop that onto our filters. And here we can get the selection to choose what we want. So we'll just have a look at happiness for now. Let's have a look if happiness affects this stuff. Maybe we'll actually look at happiness next to our income, just to make that a little bit easier to see. And again, kind of like the crimes, the happiness is slightly going down, but the wage doesn't really seem to be. Let's do some analysis. Let's get some average lines. Let's have a look at them on each one. Say those average lines skewing differently, but now you can start to see where these are changing. But you can see how you can start to do this stuff. So let's have a look at incomes. You can kind of see that this happiness isn't really up or down, despite the income going down and the crime rates kind of staying similar. Okay, that is effectively it. Feel free to play around with it and have a look at what else you can do. Do remember to check on your validity of these data sources and stuff like that. Thanks for watching this module. I've had a great time teaching you. In this module, we've covered how to clean real-world data, so getting that data ready for analysis. We've imported and joined multiple data sources together, all within Tableau, and we've had a brief introduction about what real-world data is. If you want to continue with our Tableau Data Skills training course, the next module is 105, the Tableau Data Model. You can jump straight to it by clicking on the next video thumbnail to the right. And if you'd like us to help you and your team boost your data skills, please reach out to us at info@theinformationlab.co.uk.